Yeah, and Kelly, just
Yeah.
so anyone who's watching on Facebook too, if you have any questions, go ahead and comment on the Facebook video, and I'll voice them.
Oh,
them,
cool.
so
Or you can
to...
chat it. I'll check the chat box too. I'm pretty good about checking that. And
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Thank you. Welcome. I'm so happy to be with you all today. And I thought we'd start just with a little warm up. Just warm your hands up. A little bit like when you do mudras, it's a little bit like playing an instrument that you gotta kind of warm up and do your scales first. And so you could rub all over your hands. And then you could take the one hand and just squeeze it, squeeze the other hand, squeeze every little bit of it, the fingers, the wrist, the heel of the hand. You could do that on both sides. You could even go down. Sometimes our forearms get so unbelievably tight, and it's a place we neglect. Especially if you've been home and you've been gardening a lot, you really need to give your forearms a good squeeze. And then you could take your hands and just fold them up so they're like two fists with the thumbs on the outside, and rub your knuckles together. It's sort of like turning the lights on, like lighting the spark here. We light our spark. And then you're gonna shake your hands out. So shake them up and down like a little bird that can't fly. Shake them up and down really fast, and then shake them side to side really fast. And then this is a little brain activity. Can you do one up and down and one side to side real quick? Sometimes my brain says no. And then switch them. You notice maybe one side is easier than the other. And then up and down again, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then you're just gonna set your palms face up on your knees. Pause for a moment. You might let your eyes close, or at any point, eyes could close, eyes could open and close. Doesn't matter, it's up to you. But you could take your hands now and just lift them an inch from your knees, just 1 inch, like you're holding the sky in your hands. You feel the weight of the atmosphere in your hands. You feel gravity in your hands. And then so little by little, like small increments, like you can barely even notice they're moving, start to let your hands float up. So slow, and you can almost imagine or feel the molecules of air rolling between your fingers as you slowly lift the hands. You feel the air heavy in your palms. And eventually the hands will get about to the level of your heart. And at that point you can turn them towards each other. And you can feel the heat of your palms perhaps, and sense energy between your hands. It's almost like when the same poles of a magnet, you try to put them together and they repel. There's a quality of presence between your hands here and energy. And little by little, you could start to move your palms towards each other. Little by little, you still notice the texture of the air around and between your fingers. And you might feel little sort of pulsations. You could even imagine it, feeling of like you're holding a ball of energy between your hands. Sometimes when I start to feel it, I like to sort of play with it, almost like it's Play-Doh or something. And little by little, you might notice that feeling of energy grow stronger as your hands start to get closer together, as you can sense the heat of one palm on the other. And then little by little, you can eventually, and you might need your eyes for this, you could bring the very tips of your fingers together to touch. And you could take that, this is called Hakini Mudra. I'm just gonna let it go and let somebody in real quick, but you can hold on to it. And you hold that Hakini Mudra, and you can hold it at your heart for a moment. This one, I think of this one as like turning the lights on inside, turning the lights on in your brain, turning the lights on in your mind. And then you could keep that Hakini Mudra and just let it slowly drift down until it settles onto your thighs here, until your hands just sort of rest in a place on your lap that feels like it's pretty easeful. You can have some ease through your elbows. The fingers aren't really overworking, but they're still connected to keep you sort of really present and vibrant and alive. And you can just notice the energetic quality of this shape. Mudras are all about energy. They're all about changing our own. It's like I think of them as changing the channel. When our energy feels a certain way, we have a choice about whether we want to go with that or we want to change the channel. And so these are like little channel changers. And while we're holding this one and just feeling its energetic quality, I want to say a couple of things I want to explain about this workshop today. One is that these practices have no meaning other than the meaning you give them. Yoga has no meaning other than the meaning that you give it, right? This is your practice. And so I can share with you what I feel to be true, what I've experienced to be true with these practices. The same goes for chakras or any of it, right? But you've got to find your own path. You've got to find your own meaning with these. And so it might be the same as mine. You might hear what I say and feel like, wow, that really resonates. And it's also okay if you don't, okay? Because that's just how this practice is. It's really personal. And it doesn't mean anything unless you really like viscerally get it and it means something to you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that I had a really hard time thinking about teaching today, as I bet you all can imagine. And if you're not in the US, I'm sure you know what's going on. And so it was really hard. Like I had a whole plan about like doing elements and finger mudras and things like that. And it just seemed sort of silly and pointless, actually. But I sat with it for a while and I thought that just being together is something that's really powerful. And so that's beautiful, and I'm really grateful to you all for being with me, because being together means something. And also that, since we are the ones who give these practices meaning, that we can infuse our meaning into what we do today. So I changed the plan a little bit. I changed the mudras, and we're gonna really try to make it relevant, because if it's not relevant, what's our practice for, right? And I also offer you these not as a substitute for any sort of action, but as an addition, as another layer to your practice, right? Yoga, asana, physical asana, meditation, mudras, any of it is just a layer, and it's not a substitute for doing the work in life, right? Like, oh, sending you love and light is lovely, but if that's all you're doing, it's not lovely, it's toxic. And so let's use these today as just one layer to add to our already beautiful and rich practice that we take out into the world with us. And so we're gonna start with a Mudra Vinyasa today. You can take your hands and just interlace them softly. I have to apologize, I cut my finger right before teaching today, so I have this awful bloody mess of a hand. It's just so funny that it happens that way. So your hands are gonna come in a loose interlace, not all the way to the webbing, but almost. And you can bring that right over your heart and just be with that for a moment. And notice, perhaps you can sense the difference between this one, the Hakini, versus this one, Vajra Pradama. So this one's called the Great Forehead Mudra. And it's got a sort of, the energy moves up generally when you do this one. You feel it maybe more here. This one is called Vajra Pradama. It means unshakable trust. And I'm not going to say much more about it because I think this one sort of speaks for itself. And so we take this unshakable trust to begin with. We sort of put a little fortress around our heart and bolster our heart up. And then from there, we're going to take Abhaya Mudra with the left arm facing up and out, and the right palm facing down and out. You could do it either way, left hand or right hand. The Buddha did it both ways, but there's a story about the Buddha taking the left hand up version of this one, where people that he loved were fighting, and they were fighting over water in this case, and he got really upset that things were coming to blows and they weren't getting along, and he stepped in and basically he said that human life is so much more valuable than anything else. And so that's why we're taking this one today. And this one, if we had a mantra, we're going to do little mantras to go with them. And this one is I stand with you. Right? So it's no fear. It's like when your best friend is in trouble and you're like, I got you, right? We do this naturally. And so instead of just no fear, it's I stand with you. I'm not afraid to stand with you. And then you're going to take the thumb and index finger of each hand like so into two Jnana Mudras. Touch the thumb and index finger of your, hang on, let me get it right, your left hand to the middle finger of your right hand. I'm trying to do it, right hand to the middle finger of your left hand. I'm trying to do it backwards because I'm mirroring you. So you got the thumb and index finger of your right hand touches the middle finger of your left hand. Yeah, like that. And then you can bring that one right in front of your heart. And so your left hand is kind of facing your chest and your right hand is facing out. And what this one is called is Dharma Chakra. And Dharma is, the wheel of Dharma really is what it means. Chakra means wheel, the wheel of life, the wheel of responsibility. And for this one, our mantra is together we turn the wheel. Because what this mudra means to me is that, while we might be on one side of the wheel today, it's always turning. And tomorrow we could be on the other side of the wheel. And, that applies to everything. If we're going through a challenge, it means that this too shall pass. If we're going through a period of joy in our life, it means don't get so attached to how things are. And if we're going through a period of upheaval in society, it's to me a reminder to keep pushing and turning the wheel so that we can move forward. And then we take the hands and we cross them and hook just the thumbs. And this one is Garuda Mudra for freedom. And our mantra here is your freedom is my freedom. Your freedom is my freedom. And I'm not free until you are. And then the last one we'll do is just to take the hands and offer them out in front of us. This one's called Pushpaputa, and it means a bowl full of flowers. But it's just like giving you your deepest blessings, like whatever you feel in your heart, all the love and all of the solidarity and everything, saying, I give it to you. I give you everything I possibly can so that we can all be free. And so we'll just go through those a couple of times. We can start back in Vajra Pradama. No words, just to feel. And Abhaya with the left palm up, the right palm facing down. This right palm is in Virata Mudra. It's saying, I'm just giving you so many blessings. I'm here. I stand with you. Dharma Chakra, 2 thumb and index fingers touch. The right one touches the middle finger of the left one. Together, we turn the wheel. And then Garuda, hook your thumbs, cross your wrists. Your freedom is my freedom. Pushpaputa, I give you myself. How can I be of service? And then one more time, no words this time, just mudras. I'll just call out the mudra if you want to keep your eyes closed. So Vajra Pradama. Abhaya. Dharma Chakra. And don't worry if you don't do it right. Garuda. And Pushpaputa. You can just seal it all in with Anjali Mudra. And this one too is so lovely. I often forget about teaching this one. And this one, there's a beautiful long story that goes with it, which I can share another time. But essentially it's about taking all of life, that life isn't just all rainbows and puppy dogs and happy smiles and love and light, that it's light and dark, that it's yin and yang. And that in order to really feel the wholeness of it, we have to accept both parts and really live in that place of honoring everything as divine. And then you can let your palms just rest. And so we've got a few minutes left. I wanted to tell you a story that I've been really loving lately, and we'll do some mudras to go with the story. So it's a story about Avalokitesvara and the goddess Tara. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and especially the last couple of days. So Avalokitesvara is a Bodhisattva of compassion in the Buddhist tradition, and Tara is associated with him as the female goddess of compassion. And the story is so lovely because Avalokitesvara is you and me. It's all of us. It's anybody who cares about the world. And so Avalokitesvara is doing all of these spiritual practices, you know, doing lots of yoga and meditating and doing all the right things and like, you know, trying to eat healthy and save the world. and you know how hard that is, right? It's like climbing a mountain, like to really, in a world that's sort of against you, this capitalist world, to always choose the right thing, to have viveka, discernment, is not easy. And so he's like climbing this mountain of self-awareness and other awareness and love, and arrives eventually at the top of the mountain and has this sense, he sees at the top of the mountain that there's a wall, a stone wall. And Avalokitesvara knows in his heart that once he goes over this wall, he's done. He's done all the work of waking up. He doesn't have to come back and be a human again, be reborn again into this, you know, hard place. And so he's like, oh, good, I did it, yeah. And so he goes to put his leg over the wall, and the moment he does, he stops. His heart sort of freezes because he hears way down below him at the bottom of the mountain the cries of all the people who are still suffering. And he thinks, how can I, who am I to go over this wall when everyone else is stuck in their grief and their suffering? And so on the top of that mountain, he stands and he sort of yells into the sky and makes this vow that I shall not leave this planet until I've helped everyone, every single sentient being, move through their suffering to the other side. And if I break my vow, may my head explode. And so he goes back down the mountain, and down the mountain he goes, and he starts helping people, and oh, she's suffering, and oh, he's suffering. And pretty soon he gets totally overwhelmed with the amount of suffering in the world. And not only that, not only does he realize the suffering is so much more than he ever thought, he also realizes that some people are just assholes and they don't want to be helped. And how do you do it? You know, how do you be in this world when this is the situation? And finally he thinks, okay, you know what? If I can't do it, if it's too much, then I should just save myself. I should get out of here and just save me, right? And this was me the other day. Like, I'm just turning off the news. I just can't handle it. Anybody been doing that lately, right? And then I was like, no, you don't get to do that. Right? And so the moment he does that, he says, forget it. His head explodes, of course, because he made this vow. And his head explodes into 100 pieces. And he starts to cry. And as he's crying, all these little pieces of his head, little tears are coming out of them. And the tears, they turn into Tara. And so Tara is this beautiful goddess that is meant to witness the suffering and then hold our hand and bring us through it. And she doesn't abandon us when things are hard. She helps us so that we don't run away. And so the Buddha comes down, and the Buddha starts picking up the pieces of Avalokitesvara's head and puts them back together. And he says, guess what? I didn't give you one head. Now you've got 11. I gave you extras so that you can be there for more people, so you can see more where they're suffering and attend to people. And not only that, I'm going to give you 1,000 arms. And 1,000 arms with 1,000 hands, and in the center of each palm, and maybe you've seen this image, it's so beautiful, the hand of Avalokitesvara with an eye in the center of the palm. And so each hand has an eye, and so he's got all the eyes on the 11 heads and an eye in every palm, so that he can just constantly be witness and see and run to where people need him. And he gets Tara, he gets this goddess of compassion, so that he doesn't have to work alone. And Tara is so magical. So Tara, and particularly I've been interested in green Tara. Orange Tara is the one. And orange Tara is the disease dispelling Tara, who can destroy the disease, not just viruses and illness, but the disease of inequality, of fear, of anxiety, of all the different diseases that are in us and around us. And so we'll sit for a moment, and you can take your hands and bring your right palm face up on your thigh. You can touch the thumb and index finger of your right hand together in Dharma Mudra, and then your left hand will touch the earth, or if you're sitting on a chair or something, whatever, touches anything that's lower than you. And this is Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, calling witness or touching the earth. And you might be familiar with how Buddha did this when he became enlightened under the Bodhi tree. He touched the earth and called witness. But this is also, he did it the other way, right hand down. Left hand down is Tara's version. And she does it to call upon her army of Taras. And so when she does it, she sits and she touches the earth, this Bodhisattva of compassion. The earth cracks open underneath her hand, and thousands of Taras come out. Some of them as tiny as atoms, as small as one cell, and they can go into your body or in the body of your friends and family and people around you. And they're like little burning suns, and they can destroy whatever is dark and heavy and holding us back, whatever makes us ill in our bodies, minds, or hearts. So you can imagine all these tiny little minuscule, millions of them Taras, pouring out of the crack in the ground that you've just made. They go into your body to heal what needs healing, and they go out into the world. And some of the Taras too, they can be ginormous. They can be as tall as mountains. So you can imagine on either side of you, you're flanked by your goddess squad. You've got two giant mountain-sized Taras to your right and your left, and they are ready. They've got your back. Right, so you are not alone in this fight. You are not alone in your battle against darkness, against fear, against anxiety, against inequality. So you can sit for a moment and feel the power of your tribe. You could call upon the power of yourself here. And if you don't feel it, that's okay too, because mudras, they're kind of magical in that they create states of mind when we need that, right? Where they could be spontaneous, that they just happen because we feel a certain way. But we can also use them to cultivate a state of mind. So when we don't feel powerful, we can use them to help us get there. When we don't feel safe or loved or strong, we use them to help us get there. And while we sit with this mudra for one more minute here, we're going to layer it. So the practice is, right, the more layers we add to our practice, the deeper they get. If asana is our only layer, it's not bad, but it's not a very effective and deep practice, right? We have to keep layering things on. And when we layer together the mudra with the story, the visualization and meditation, and also with mantra, it becomes really powerful, 3 times more powerful. And so I'll chant, and if you're home and you want to chant with me, of course you could. Mudra's Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha, the mudra for Tara, the mantra for Tara. Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha. Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha. Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha. 2 more. Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha. Om Tada, Tu Tade, Tude, Soha. And you could bring your hands back together in that soft interlace over your heart, Vajra Pradama, and again, just feeling the energetic quality. It works. I love science, and what science has been telling us now and proving through experiments is that when we touch ourselves like this, It activates the same places in our brain as language, doing mudras. It's that powerful. And when we touch ourselves like this, or we touch ourselves like this, or we touch ourselves like this, that our brain understands that the same way as it would if someone else was doing it. And that's really powerful, I think, right? That you, even if you're alone, quarantined in your home for months, that even if you just don't have that person around you right now, that I know it's not exactly the same, but you can do things that help the chemistry of your body. It's just a layer. It's not the only solution, but it's a layer that could help. And I encourage you to do whatever you can to take your yoga off the mat and to help others with these practices. And I thank you all so much from the very deepest bottom of my heart for being with me today on this hard day in our country's history, and for doing the work. And if you have any questions, I'll type my name here in the chat box. It's Kelly Cam, and I have a website, kellycamyoga.com, and there's loads of stuff. And if you YouTube me, I have lots of stuff on YouTube. And if you love mudras, on my website there's like 50 mudras and explanations and how to, and and then you can use, I have a subscription website, and my thing is I share mythical stories. That's my big thing. But if you go to my website and you type in free month on the subscription part, you get a month access to all the myths and the stories, and there's asana classes and yin classes and sutra study and harmonium lessons and everything else that you could ever want. And I'm on, Facebook, and thanks, Carrie. Facebook and Instagram and all the places. Thank you, Carrie, so much for coming. Oh, hi. And I am Kelly Cam Yoga on Instagram.
Yeah, and Kelly, it's still early too, so even if
sweet.
you wanted to hang out for a little bit, and if anyone does want to turn their mic on
and we could definitely do some more, because I'm here I am in my house. I got nowhere to go.
No, you're fine.
What time is it?
Open up to people too, because 9:29. For me, that was really moving, and it's such food for thought, and does bring up a lot of emotions and thoughts, and so if anyone does feel called to share or respond, go feel free to unmute yourself and or comment or chat wherever. And I'll be here for a couple minutes too. So if you want to hang out, Kelly, and just see.
I'll stick around as long as, I'll wait till everybody's gone. As long as you want, we can talk, because we need to, we need each other so much right now, and we need to keep the fires burning.
I just think it's so hard to know what to do. There's so many things, there's so much out there, like that story you said where you needed 11 heads and 1,000 arms and all that, so much. Where do you start?
You start with what's closest to you, and this has really been helping me a lot. That at one point, and this was before all these events of the last few days, my girlfriend and I were talking, and she said it really helped her when someone told her, you got to give up hope, like this country is fucked basically. But when we stop thinking about like trying to change everything all at once, and we make it really, we just think about our little lives and how we can change things right now, like do one small thing in your community. Like instead of thinking about, oh my God, I have to help all the thousands and millions of people, start small. Like what I've been doing is I've been, the last few days, when I notice anyone in the yoga community, any white women especially, that seem like they might say something racist, or they seem sort of, like they don't quite get it, but there's a hint that they could, I go one-on-one. And I've been like behind the scenes one-on-one with anybody who like shows even a hint that there might be open-mindedness there, and they could perhaps be change somewhat, you know? And so I think one-on-one, little by little, and it, you know, there was a great podcast in NPR about how we don't, like, facts don't change anybody's mind, but talking to people changes people's mind, you know? And so you just find somebody. Anybody else have thoughts about that? What do you do when it seems overwhelming, or where do you start? No, but you can unmute yourself if you're muted. And we could start with the yoga community, you know, and work on more inclusion in the yoga community and being honest about our history in the yoga community. And right, you know, we appropriated this practice from brown people, and now when you type in yoga on Google, it's all white women exercising. So we could start changing that, and that's one way. And I'm talking to myself, you know, because my teacher trainings are full of white ladies just like me.
Yeah, I mean, I think what sticks out to me is that, you know, like one of the more profound principles in yoga is that the work starts with you, right? Like anything that's happening externally needs to be addressed internally. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, it comes back to, like you said, sometimes we feel like we can't solve it all. And like, there's so many things happening left right here, but like it starts right here, like right in front of you. So I think, you know, navigating that and realizing that like it's closer than you think.
Yeah. Definitely. Start as close as you can. And, you know, then maybe if you get that house all in order, then you work outwards, for sure. Yeah.
The inclusion, the idea of inclusion for everyone, how do you do that? I think part of it, I see that more, I live out Long Island, that there is more community yoga offered, so it doesn't have to be $20 a class.
Yeah.
So perhaps that, I don't know.
Yeah,
in
a way.
Good idea.
I think so too. Definitely, yoga is for, you know, elites mostly, but to take it into places like, you know, prisons and things like that, and not, you know, my partner's doing this amazing thing where she's teaching women in recovery how to be teachers. So it's not just like, here I am, the white woman coming in, I'm going to give you a yoga class. It's like, no, I'm going to give you the tools to empower your own people. And I think that's really important, because that's more white privilege when we say, I'm going to offer a free yoga class, or I want to teach yoga in the prison. It comes from a noble place, but unless we are passing on that power, I don't know, you know, it does good, but I don't know, it could do better, right? And so how do we find a way to be part of that, empowering marginalized people? Really important. And, you know, I don't know that mudras do much for that, but they, all of it helps, you know, it's like they work on us, and it's quite, I think, you know, just bringing it around back to mudras again, just a little bit, is that like, there's something about just being with yourself, and that it's meditation, you know, they, when you tune into energy, when you do something like this, you're quiet for a moment, and quiet is where the truth shows itself, and stillness. And so that's one way you could use these practices, is just because I know sometimes it's hard for people just to meditate and just to be with themselves. And so if using a tool like a mudra helps, then go for it, use it. Yeah. I love this mudra as well, the Lotus. I think this one is beautiful. This is where you take the heels of your hands together and you touch the thumbs and the pinkies, and the middle 3 fingers are open. And this is lovely, but I love adding to it. And this comes from, not me, I didn't invent this, but it's Sienna Sherman, another beautiful teacher. She calls it turning the prayer wheel of the heart. And so we take this lotus, that it's about rising from the mud, but rising from inequality, rising from oppression, rising from injustice, and we have to turn the wheel. It's active. We don't just sit here and go, oh, it's going to be okay. You turn the wheel. And so this is turning the prayer wheel of the heart. And to me, this one, like the Dharma Chakra, is like a reminder that this yoga practice is not passive. It's about action, and the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras, the first sutra is about Kriya Yoga, the yoga of action, right? Tapa Svadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yogaha. And it's saying that the yoga is action, Kriya, action. And that involves tapas. It involves fire, the willingness to step into difficulties. You can keep turning your wheel if you like that, or you could let it rest in the lotus as you wish. So tapas, we have the willingness to go through the fire, knowing that change is on the other side. And svadhyaya, self-study, that we are also willing to sit quietly and be witness to what comes up in ourselves. And Ishvara Pranidhana, that we constantly keep pointing ourselves back to our North Star, you know, and reorienting and asking, what is my intention here? Why am I doing yoga, right? Why am I doing anything in my life? And what is my most noble intention? And how do I constantly reorient back to that? And so yoga is really all about action. Anybody else have thoughts or questions? No? All right. Wow. I hope I see you in the virtual world, but maybe the real world again soon. Thanks
Thank
for
you
that.
very much.
You're welcome. Let's go. Save those baby goats. Thanks, everybody.